Welcome everybody to Boro Bs channel, and I have a special guest here today, the resident Arsenal fan, the man of HPTV, Mr. Shahnoor is here. How are you, Shahnoor? How's life, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Not really that great because obviously Arsenal won't let me. Other than
Yeah,
that,
man.
all good.
How are you feeling? How are you feeling about the season so far? Like we go back to August 1st, 2020, you win the FA Cup, and it's been a very it's been a hell of a next 3 months. How do you feel? How do you feel about the season so far?
Yeah, we were supposed to, kick on from winning the FA Cup, and every season we've won the FA Cup since 2014. It's been like we don't. We
Yeah,
actually go a step down or a step backwards, and I think it has to do with the board and the way things are run at the club. You've seen so much change happening. Even before Wenger left, we had Sven Mislintat coming in, and then you had Raul Sanlehi coming in, and you had Ivan Gazidis moving out, and then you had Sven Mislintat moving out, and then even Raul Sanlehi moved out, and in the meantime, Vinay Venkatesham, he came in, and then Edu came in, and these are all changes in the backroom staff, changes in scouting, changes in the hierarchy, changes in how we deal with contracts and contract negotiations. And speaking of negotiator, Hasfami, he's also been let go. So with all of these changes happening, I think the eventual toll is starting to make its way into the field and the way Arsenal play and how things are run at the club. Because when there's no stability from the hierarchy, then that leads to players doing what they want and sometimes, not performing in the field. As far as I know, Mikel Arteta and David Luiz, they have an issue. Apparently, Luiz is
yeah.
not
So
Arteta.
yeah, with regards to this season, but I mean, I understand. I totally get that there have been a lot of issues back room for Arsenal, especially with all the changes, especially post Wenger. I mean, there was always going to be a transition period. But 15th, do you honestly think, like in terms of the squad Arsenal had, it is that bad, or do you think it's a fair reflection on Arsenal right now, or do you think this has been coming, like something like this has been coming for a while? What do you like? Where do you stand on where the how the season has been so far?
So it's been like last season, if we look at it under Unai Emery, it
Yeah,
started off in a very similar manner, and Emery eventually got the sack in December, I think, or was it November? Somewhere around this November December period. What
that's a good
happened
point.
this season? What happened this season is that we started off well, but then things started to go downhill. And if we look back at a few performances under Unai Emery, there was the one where Xhaka threw his shirt away and told
Yeah,
the fans
yeah,
to F off, right? And it was like a mirror, almost a mirror image of history repeating itself with Xhaka getting sent off in the last game. So last season it was against Crystal Palace, I think. This season, obviously, this happened against Burnley, and Unai got the sack a few days later. And I
yeah,
hope it doesn't, because it's the players that are letting him down. It's the players that cost Wenger his job. It's the same players. If you
yeah,
look at these players from the Wenger era, Xhaka, Bellerin, Holding, uh, Mustafi, the same guys. Last season we had Aubameyang having one of his best seasons overall in his career, and that sort of papered over the cracks in the rest of the squad. He kind of carried the team through with his goals. Him, Bernd
yeah,
Leno, Emi Martinez. There were individual performances, but we did not perform as a team like we would have wanted to, or else we wouldn't have finished eighth. And then you have
yeah.
to ask that, is this team actually that bad that they finished eighth, or right now they're 15th? Are they really that bad? And I have to say that if you look at our midfield, some of the names like Granit Xhaka, Mohamed El Nene, even the other players that come in, Danny
Yeah.
Ceballos on loan from Real Madrid, apart from Thomas Partey, who's injured, unfortunately, you really can't
But
say that there's one other name that I can put in that midfield. And I think the problem stems from somebody by the name of Mesut Ozil, who has been put aside. And
yeah,
when you have Mesut Ozil put it on one side, and you have all these problems in the background with the backroom changes and coaching staff changes and changes in coach and everything, and then Arteta coming in and then him making his own blueprint, then you start to see that no, actually you need to get rid of these players too. You just
Yeah,
can't keep on picking the coach if you have the same players. That's what we've seen at Chelsea. You have a new coach, you have a new set of players. Sarri was back, for instance. Antonio Conte was back.
yeah,
Previously, Mourinho was back. So
yeah,
you had all these managers who got back and who won new trophies. Some of them won
yeah.
new leagues. When they couldn't, even when they won new leagues, you still changed it up. And now you have Lampard, who has been back in his second season. First season, you had a transfer ban, but you've made full. You've literally bought a new starting 11. So
But
having said that, Arteta hasn't really been back that way. We knew
so,
we needed a creative midfielder. We
do you
didn't.
think so? Like, do you
Yeah,
think so? Because like I feel like with Arteta, he's been given a fair few assets that he probably asked for. Like Villian, I feel like is probably his signing because the way he's playing him every week, it tells me that he wanted to sign Villian. Like obviously Gabriel and Partey are also his choices. They've obviously when they've played, they've looked like they've improved the team, and they look like it's something that Arteta was planning on, like in terms of signing these players. Um, like I feel like what you're saying is true to a large extent, but a lot of the problems have continued under Arteta. And how much would you say is Arteta's fault? For example, the contractual situations with certain players, like Zaka was on the way out, wasn't he? He was leaving, and it was Arteta who kind of said, "Come back, like I'll give you a chance. Now don't go, don't leave." And he stayed back. El Neni stayed back. Remember, before the injury, El Neni was
yeah.
supposed to go out on loan or something, whatever it was. But he stayed back, and now El Neni is one of the key players. And these the problems that Arsenal have also, can Arteta manage them? That's my big question. Like, is he really up? Is he showing you enough to show that he's the man?
In the Europa League, yes, but in the league, you know what? Some of these players that you just mentioned here, and I want to point out some of them: Moving, Behrin, Xhaka, Elneny.
Yeah, yeah.
All
These are his
improved.
players.
They all improved under Arteta when when
But
Arteta came in. But right now, what's happening is that we're seeing that okay, these players can improve to a certain level, but they're not good enough. They're not consistent enough, and they're going to let the team down sooner or later. So Arteta, at first, he gave them a chance because he didn't want to come in and he didn't want to go like, oh, you know what, let's buy an entirely new squad. Because Arteta doesn't have that experience to ask for that. Arsenal went with Arteta because they know that he's the sort of guy who is gonna do something with
so
the resources given. But as
so he's
Arteta
a
won Arsenal a trophy, the club decided to name him the manager instead of head coach. And with that came added responsibility with transfers. I think the Willian signing was a Raul Sanllehi signing and an Edu signing because they have the same agent. Edu has Kia Zurabchen as his agent, so too does Willian. And I think it's less to do with Arteta, more to do with Edu, who was
do
the
do
head
you not
right
do you
now.
not think though do you not think though that Arteta said, okay, I give you the I give you the go ahead to make the signing. I honestly think that Arteta has that kind of power. Otherwise, they
Yeah,
wouldn't just make him manager. You know.
yeah, absolutely. But when was he made manager? Was he made manager during the transfer window or once the season started? It happened once the season started. So after Arsenal won the Community Shield, um, what I would
Maybe.
like to say is that these players, Willian, I don't, I don't think it's like down to one person. I think Arteta says yes, but at first the contact was probably made by Edu or Kia maybe came over to Edu and said that, hey, look, this player, he's willing to leave Chelsea, he's on free. So would you like to take him? You guys might need backup for Pepe. So that's how it happened.
Would you?
With the other
But
signing,
yeah.
Gabriel
Go
and
ahead.
Partey. So if you look at the signing of Gabriel, Gabriel isn't an Arteta signing either. Gabriel was initially scouted by Raul Sanllehi. The contact was made by Raul Sanllehi. And then even though Raul left the club, the final and finishing touches were put by Arteta and Edu, even Brazilian Edu. And then the Partey one was also in the new signing because Arteta wanted Awar. Arteta specifically wanted Awar. And Edu wanted Partey. We needed both. So eventually we went with what Edu wanted, which is great.
Okay.
Partey, good player. We can
You think so? You honestly think that Arteta like would have between like he did one part there particularly? Is that what you're saying, or were you saying that he kind of had to make do with our with Partey because he didn't get our? I feel like we spoke about this. Like, wasn't Partey more of what Arsenal needed? Like beginning of the season, everybody was saying that Arsenal needed a commanding Patrick Vieira replacement, like a midfield player who will shore it up because they haven't had that in so many years. And Partey was everyone was even including me. I was like, that's an impressive signing because he
yeah.
is one of the world's best.
We saw why parties needed match against Man United, but we also see why we need a war because we're not creating anything for the strikers, and as a result, these strikers are firing blanks. And I
Again,
just
like I just have to interrupt. Like again, but the same players, almost the same squad. Near the end of Wenger's reign and definitely under Emery's reign, they were creating chances. I remember games where I think it was North London Derby at Emirates when Arsenal went 2-0 down, came back to win 4-2, and they were pressing harder, they were trying harder, they were creating more chances with essentially the same players.
essentially the same players, and these same players created last season as well.
That's what
But
I'm saying. Like, what's happening?
these same players also went almost 3 months without a win last season. These same players also played so poorly that Wenger had to leave.
Yeah, but was it this bad though? Was it almost like a relegation battle last season?
It's been a process of this decline. If we look back over the last 5 years, what has Arsenal done? They have bought some players. They have bought badly. They haven't replaced the players that have left, and as a result, it's been a slow and steady but decline. Um, think
But
of the players that go for
yeah,
free: Aaron Ramsey,
yeah,
Alexis Sanchez,
yeah,
players like Santi Cazorla, Thomas
yeah.
Rosicki, players we have not replaced, players who were creative. And Mesut Ozil, I will name him that, because he's not going to be used this season.
Yeah.
So none of these players that we have currently in the team are those creative sort of players. So we got rid of all the creative players. We bought in wingers, we got a striker, but we never really replaced those players. You're supposed to buy Aubameyang, but you're also supposed to have a creative player who can supply to Aubameyang or to Lacazette, whoever it is, or to Pepe. And there's no supply line there. Our squad is so imbalanced right now. You cannot expect Partey to deliver to Pepe or Aubameyang from the midfield because, like you said, he's like that box to box commanding midfielder. But
But
you
but
need
but
someone with Partey who can.
I understand. But like last season, I'm just gonna bring Chelsea into this because when we lost Hazard, we lost Cahill, we lost David Luiz. It was like an end of an era, I guess you could say. A lot of these players helped us win the league for a few years, but they were gone. And what did Lampard do? He trusted youth. Why isn't Arteta trusting the players that play so well in the Europa League? Surely they can create more. I mean, it's not asking for that much to be
Yeah.
better than what Arsenal are doing right now. Like, why can't Emil Smith Rowe get a game? Why
I
can't
think
Balogun get a game?
I think that's what's gonna happen in the next game. Southampton, I think that's what's gonna happen. But I also think that there is a hierarchy within the ranks, within the team. That this is my first team, this is my second team, and you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. I think some of these first team players, they were given one last chance by Arteta. Go do something against Burnley. Show me that you can. And
You
now that
think
they
so?
I think so. I think so. Because you won't be seeing Xhaka making the Arsenal starting lineup in a long time. He might be sold in January. We
The,
might
the,
get a Xhaka Ericsson swap. I think that might happen.
I
I think he'll be in the market as well,
but
if possible.
these are essentially players that Arteta backed, and just the response that he gave in the press conference or the post match interview after Zaka was sent off with in comparison to when Pepe was sent off
Yeah,
speaks volumes because to me he's not treating Xhaka with the same kind of harshness that he treated Pepe. Pepe was
No.
shunned aside, even though less in the very next games in the Europa League, Pepe was productive. A lesser competition, yes, but we know that goals bring confidence to forward players, wingers,
From
strikers.
different players react to different things. Xhaka and Pepe are not the same. I understand that Arteta went easy on Xhaka. That's because Xhaka, at the end of the day, he is the sort of player who is limited, who's going to give you a 7 out of 10 at best. But
But
there is
he
someone who can give you a 9 out of 10, a 9.5 out of 10. And Arteta's trying to find that right balance with him.
you think
But
so?
I
You think
completely agree with you that Arteta should have been more harsh on Xhaka. But I think that even though he wasn't in the press conference, what do you expect him to say? You can't expect him to go and say that, hey, you know what, my entire team is shit, and there's no chance of doing anything.
no,
Let's sell all of them.
I
If he
get
does,
that. I get that. No,
appreciating the player's value, so he's trying his best from his perspective, just to make sure that the situation doesn't go out of control, although it already has, because these things have been brewing. Like I said, with the David Luiz situation, Granit
yeah.
Xhaka has apparently been unhappy with Arteta because he's been played in a variety of different positions. If that's the case, first things you do in January, you try and get rid of Luiz, you try and get rid of Xhaka, you try and get rid of Ozil, you try and get
It's
rid of Bellerin. You
how
have
do
to clear out.
be
In
who's gonna pay? Who's
without a
gonna
clear out, we are not going to be able to move forward. Like you said, that I would rather see us have a clear out, have the youngsters play, have Emil Smith Rowe, have
but
Balogun play,
Shanur,
have
but
Miguel Azevedo.
Shanur, like who's gonna pay the wages that these guys are on? Who's gonna be willing to buy these guys? That's another question in the current market,
That's the thing. That's
honestly.
the issue. Yeah,
And
that's the
if you're in a situation you're freezing 4 or 5 senior players out, I can't see him lasting if he does that. Like it never ends well when that kind of
and
thing happens.
that's why I have all the sympathy for Arteta because he's been put into this situation. He was never ever going to be able to sell those players to begin with.
But but
Like you
he but he entrusted those players. He had the option in the summer to say, you know what, I don't trust them. He didn't go down that road.
who was going to buy because for Bellerin, what PSG were offering was not good enough.
So this is but with like for example, you said with Pepe, he's trying to find a balance for him. But to me, it seems as if he just doesn't like him. You know what I mean? It doesn't.
It could
To me, it
be.
seems like he doesn't rate Pepe.
If he
Like,
didn't rate Pepe, he wouldn't be using Pepe so well in the Europa.
but he, no,
For me, I
in the
personally
Europa League is almost like an audition that can you get into the first team, and he's not really taking the audition seriously. I feel like because he's not giving them any chances. The Premier League team has been consistent, and they have failed. Like there's been 1 or 2 changes with
yeah.
regards to injury and sometimes with personnel. But Pepe has got that one chance against Brighton, and you can get sent off. Sometimes you have bad games, but
Mhm.
Pepe hasn't let Arsenal down the way Zaka has, and I feel
Yeah,
like he's been treated very harshly
and I'm
when
sure
compared.
when Pepe's red card period is over, he'll be back. I'm sure he'll be back.
It's been over, right? It's been over for a couple of games.
No, it's
It's
not.
not
It's
been
not.
over.
No,
Okay,
no.
so
That's how fast. That's how fast things move. It's not over. Uh, that's
okay,
that's the situation. That if Pepe's red card ban was over and he wasn't being selected, I'd have an issue.
like
If
another thing. Yeah,
yeah,
this is the David Luiz thing. He remember David Luiz did not know. It was after the Man City game after the restart. He was like, "My contract situation is not sorted out, and I don't know whether I'll stay or go, or that's why my form today was bad. It played a role, whatever the case may be." Arteta backed him then. He was like, "You know what? He's my guy, and I'm gonna stick with him, and he's one of the leaders of the dressing room." And now I hear that they don't speak to each other. So what's gone wrong there? I feel like Arteta has mismanaged the dressing room because of these. Like in my personal opinion, the selective treatment of certain players. Like he's treated Xhaka in a certain way. He's treated Aubameyang in a certain way. He's treated the senior players in a certain way. But then the likes of Pepe and the young guys like Reece Nelson, Maitland-Niles, who he rejected Arsenal, not him, but Arsenal rejected 20 million bid from Wolves, a right back who has made it into the England team but can't get into the Arsenal team. So the management of these players might have created divisions in the dressing room, and it seems like Even the senior players have lost faith with him. The younger players are not fighting for him. He's in a very bad situation now, and he really has to rally them. What do you like? How is he going to do that? Like, do you think that there's a division in the dressing room?
Yeah, there is a division in the dressing room, and I think this issue started from when Mesut Ozil was cut off from the main squad, and also Socrates, because they have some form of influence on the rest of the squad, and
They're leaders.
also see, we don't need leaders like that, to be very honest.
No,
Let's face
I understand. But I'm just saying in terms of
yeah,
age profile,
yeah. What
they're
we
guys that they look youngsters look up to, and when you see a
yeah.
senior player being treated like that,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know,
So I think that wasn't entirely Arteta's call. He's learning on the job. What I've understood from Arteta is that if he's given his set of players, I think Arteta's doing a bit of both. He's sending the board a message as well that look, you guys need to change these, and then things might improve. I think what Arteta's done, he has played a risky game, but it's something that has been brewing for a long time, and it needed to be done sooner or later. You have to say
then
these guys out. You have to say, David Luiz, you're not good enough. If that's the attitude you have as a senior pro, and you have an ego bigger than your ability, then you gotta go. Same with Mesut Ozil. Same with anyone else that's having a problem and creating a divide in the dressing room. We need to clear up. It's so obvious. And yes, you're right. It's not easy because they're on big wages, but we need to figure
yeah,
out a way. Which is why Arteta's playing them, because they're on big wages, despite their ego and despite the issues. He's trying to make sure
you
that
think so?
yeah, because if you if
Because
if Baron is dropped today, who's gonna come and buy him, right? Like his value is just gonna depreciate, just like that.
but 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 when Arteta talks about the players that you mentioned, that players that he seems to have back, likes of Zaka, Bellerin, Aubameyang, Luis, they
Mhm.
play. When he talks about them in interviews, he doesn't refer to them like the way he refers to Pepe or some of the younger guys.
Because Pepe
He,
is not in the market for sale, but these guys are. But Aubameyang is not. If
I
you if you
honestly,
if you think
I honestly don't agree. I think Pepe personally, he doesn't like Pepe. The way he keeps playing Willian, it tells me that he wanted Willian. He
I,
wanted to sign Willian.
I do understand your point that yeah, there are certain decisions that have been, but then look at how he has managed the team during the FA Cup, how he has managed the team in big games. We had an away match at Old Trafford in ages, and we finally won. Um, I know it seems like a minuscule thing, but for an Arsenal fan, this means a lot. And I understand fans are like going to be first to say, okay, Arteta out. And I agree with you that yeah, he's made some wrong decisions, but he's made more wrong decisions, and he will make more wrong decisions in the future. But he is fully invested in what's best for the club. I've seen that from the short time that he's
So
been manager or he's been coach. And for me, if you let go of Arteta now, then you have to start all over again with another manager. And Arsenal simply aren't that sort of a club. Like I said, they're not going to go and spend 300 million, like Edu said. I think probably in his quote where he's referring to, we're not going to buy Messi and whatnot. But the truth is, the fact of the matter is that Arsenal are not in that financial position to go and spend 300, 400 million or even 200 million in one transfer window. And especially not during the pandemic. The board is starting to back the side, but also the board needs to be given some modicum and some semblance of stability. Remember, we lost Raul Sanleki in this transfer window, Haas family in this transfer window. So that means that the whole restructure, it's been months. It's only been a few months that the whole restructure has happened. These guys are gonna have to take time, and they need to. Yes, they're stamping their authority on a few things by getting Ozil and Socrates out of the squad, the way they've dealt with William Saliba as well. And that's not because it's their fault. That's because of the mismanagement from the previous eras that
yeah,
it's fallen on them,
okay.
So very difficult for me to say that that's Arteta's fault because Arteta didn't buy Granit Xhaka. He
Oh,
trusted in these players because he wanted to see what I can get out of them. And now that we think that okay,
do
we
you-
can get
I
a
mean,
level
but
playing.
we don't know for sure that he didn't, like Granit Xhaka. His selection seems to suggest that, like you said, at least he trusts him.
No, he
Maybe he's
trusts
been let down.
because yeah, he has been let down. That's the thing that he trusted in these players, and these players delivered for at times for him at
But
times during difficult
but
times.
how
They let him down in the
how?
league.
Let me ask you, how far do you go? Like Arsenal's next three games are Southampton at home, who are flying,
Mhm.
Everton away, who just got a big win against us, and then
Yeah.
Chelsea at home.
Mhm.
If let's say hypothetically they
I
lose the
think
next game,
all of them. Yeah, he loses all of them, right? And we are actually in a relegation battle. What I'll do is I'll wait till January and I'll see what they do
you would
because
st- you would still be Arteta in after, let's say after the losses. Let's say they lose to Southampton, they
if
lose to.
if if let's say if Arteta goes, but the same Luis, the same Granit Xhaka, they're not going to turn into let's say Makalele and let's say Tony Adams overnight, right? They're not. They're
Right.
not those sort of players.
No,
They're not
of
Vieira.
course not.
They're not Adams. They're
But
not.
these are players like Aubameyang, for example, or like you said, David Luiz.
Mhm.
They have won. They have been consistently in the top four for whatever team they've played.
Yeah,
Obviously, Aubameyang was in Dortmund,
yeah,
Luis PSG, and Chelsea. They have they've played at a high standard, throughout their whole career.
yeah,
And don't you think 15th, even if they are in decline, even if they are early 30s, it's crazy. And don't you think Arteta has to take some of the blame? And also,
he does.
uh,
He does. He does have to take some of the blame. And like I said, his partial treatment of some of the players, it could have an effect. Like you said, that we don't know for sure. But what I get is that these players like Xhaka, Bellerin, Holding, Kolasinac, Mustafi, Socrates. Okay, Socrates came season after Wenger left, but a lot of these players have been there since the Wenger days,
the,
and
the,
we've
s-
been
the
saying that they've been letting Wenger down. Wenger
what,
gets
what,
sacked, and then Emery as well, and now under Arteta. So the main thing is these players need changing. Look at how much your team has changed, for instance, from the Conte era, right,
yeah,
to what Chelsea are now, and
yeah,
see how little our team has actually changed from the Wenger era and what the team is now. So
of
Xhaka,
course.
El Nene, maybe El Nene's improved a lot, but we know that he can only act well as a backup, maybe, but he shouldn't be a starting midfielder for a top 14. Partey, we
Yeah.
get it. Gabriel, we get it. Because Edu and Arteta, yeah, well done to them that they have tried to fix a lot of the issues in Arsenal's defense and midfield. But more work needs to be done. And it needs to be done faster because we can see that the Premier League, the teams aren't going to sit around. Your Aston Villas, your Wolves, then Leicester's. These teams are going to keep on buying and spending wisely and developing and building their teams. So
So
no easy things in the Premier League. Arsenal need to do something in January and they need to change up the players because these are the same players. You cannot improve the team with the same players. You've tried with Wenger, didn't work. Tried with Emery, didn't work. You had Lundberg as the interim, and it didn't work. And then Arteta, it's not working right now. So you have to somewhere down the line you have to say that let's
but
get rid of
you
the player, let's back Arteta, let's give him the players that he wants, and then let's see. Like for instance with Frank Lampard, right? If Frank Lampard doesn't get top four with this team, then you can say that hey look, Frank, we backed you. Chelsea actually backed Frank Lampard. But if Lampard doesn't get top four, for instance, if
yeah,
he does, then you can
he'll,
make a
he'll get
case
tracked.
Lampard has these issues. With
But
Arteta, we've
uh,
seen a lot of improvements. Yes, there are some issues,
no,
but he not
are
improved
you
on
like,
these limited players.
just with that, like Lampard, or with Frank Lampard, even last season, I could see a style of play, even with like someone like Brendan Rodgers at Leicester City. I could see a style of play. Like I feel like Arsenal now are a bit like when Leicester were under Claude Puel. They're lost. They don't have an identity, and that's what concerns me about Arteta. Because I don't see a style of play particularly. It's okay to defend in numbers against the top six teams and get results, and that's great. That builds confidence. But you need to have a default style of play, which Arsenal don't seem to have. It changes from game to game. They're not creating
It,
much opportunities.
it's an issue. I would say it's become an issue in the last 3 4 games. But before that, we were seeing some certain patterns. Think of the goals that Arsenal scored against
But
Manchester City in the FA Cup, against Liverpool as well. In
that's I would say that isn't that's last season. If you look
that's
at our shots on
right.
target for Arsenal, they're bottom five.
Yeah, right
Shots
now.
created this season.
Yeah, right
Yeah,
now they are suffering. But I think it has more to do with the players and the
yeah, of
way.
course, I agree, but I totally agree that ultimately it is the players, but it's not easy. It's not FIFA career mode. You can't ship out six, seven players in one transfer
No,
window, especially in January, especially
yeah,
in a season in a time like this.
yeah.
So it's not going to be easy. He's gonna have to put a band-aid on the whole situation and manage and
Which
keep
he
the dressing room in control.
tried
Like,
doing.
do you think he will last if he loses the next three games?
Well, if he is to go after the next 3 games, if Arsenal do end up losing the next 3 games, I
How?
don't
All
see.
right. Let's say how much would you expect as a fan, like for him to save face? I know you are Arteta in, but for him to, let's say, save face with the fan base and with the board, how many points does he need from the next three games? Because let's face it, he's gonna have to get some big points. He's gonna have to get that's 9 points available.
Yeah,
How,
for me, it's not just the next 3 games. I'll be more patient, and the reason
really?
why I'm more patient is because um, we are still in the Europa League. If we were to be out of the Europa League,
You
out
guys
of
got Benfica, right?
yeah, it's not gonna be easy.
Benfica are a good team.
I know.
They're a good team.
Yeah, I think us and United we got the toughest because United also got Real Sociedad. Um, Now coming back to Arteta's my objectives or my understanding of what I want to see and what I'm seeing from Arteta is us becoming more competitive away from home against the bigger teams. Our home form has gone out the window; it's gone down the drain
But
recently,
you've
and
done that. No,
yeah, we
it's
have done that.
reversed.
But
It's
at
reversed.
the end of the day, uh, if we see that Arteta's not been backed and he's been sacked, that'll be even sadder because the next guy that comes in will have an even more impossible job of dealing with the same wreckage and the same shit players. And at least from what I understand or from what I see from Arteta is that he understands, he knows the club. Like Wenger, Emery was more or less an outside guy, and I still back Emery because I felt like Emery didn't get back. And
Yeah,
it's true because Emery wanted certain players and he didn't get them. So Arteta needs to get backed. The board needs to back him with 5 6 different signings that allows him. And I am saying 5 6 because this squad needs massive surgery. And the whole midfield needs to change. Partey needs a cam, he needs a CM or a CDM. The right side of defense needs to be shafted because Bayern and Holding not good enough. You need another center back coming in. You need another right back coming in. At least 4 signings before we can get a steady starting 11. And then from there we can, move forward and we can, see
yeah,
what we do. But at least Arteta needs to be backed in January. One signing won't cut it, and a lot of these players need to be sold because they are poison. From one player, like from Ozil to the other guys, the senior core, like you said with Xhaka and with Luis. If
Let
these
me,
guys cause problems, then the team needs to change, and these guys need to go because they will cause problems with the next manager and the next manager and the next manager. No matter whoever comes in, this team are better than 15. But
isn't
at the
isn't it, isn't this a job for Edu then? Like, let's get on to Edu. Like, let's end the
yeah,
video, but let's get into Edu last. This is what he said. Arteta is doing a great job. We are in the process to have a beautiful future with Mikel. If you can sign 20 players, which we're not going to do, that's not going to work anyway. Why people expect a magician to go boom here? Come here, Messi. That's not going to happen. So he's saying that Arsenal are not going to go out and buy players like and expect like a bit like Man City or Chelsea or PSG or even Manchester United, two or three big name players come in and transform a team. He's saying you have to be patient and that there may not be the kind of signings like Soboslai is going to Leipzig as far as I know.
Yeah,
Like that, like so that was an Arsenal target, for example. Again, another target potentially missed, which is another. Is Edu doing his job properly? Is Edu showing the kind of ambition that's needed for Arteta to be back and to reach that level that Arteta
right,
wants to
right. So with
go
the
towards?
Partey and Gabriel signing, I have to give them credit. With the Williams signing, I've been a from day one, and I think that that's something that may pay off for Arsenal in the end. But at
We were talking about Edu
yeah,
and the job he has on his hands to make sure that Arteta can get the support he needs. Like, what do you think Edu has to do? Let's put a timeline on this. January transfer window and the summer transfer window. How many players does he have to get rid of, and how many players does he have to potentially add or at least promote from the youth team or give or bring in? Yeah. How many players does he have to get rid of and bring in?
so he's gonna have to bring in, I would say, at least two players in January, at least. And the two signings I definitely would like to see is a central midfielder and a central attacking midfielder. And because we already have Emil Smith Rowe, we already have Miguel Aziz, we also have Joe Willock in the squad who have shown that they can do a job, but they're going to need some players that they can play around as well. Because we cannot expect them to come into the first team and just take Arsenal to top four or top six or whatever it is. If they can't buy those players, at least first thing I need to see is some of these players sold. Xhaka, obviously Ozil, Socrates, maybe Bellerin, maybe someone like Maitland Niles, even if a good offer comes in for him, because that's money and we can invest that on better players, a better right back, a better center back, Mustafi. I forgot his name. So at least 4 or 5 players trying to be sold. We almost forgot Kolasinac. There's so many players. I can literally name like 7 8 players who we can see with Arsenal. Is constantly letting the team down. It's not good enough for us, and they're still around. So we need a clear out before we buy players. So in January, I want us to at least have a clear out. If the young guns, if the likes of Balogun and Emil Smith Rowe and Miguel Aziz, they come in and they're used and they do a job, great. And that's what's gonna have to happen in the future. Yeah,
Uh, Jim, let me just ask. You're right. That's ideally. I would like to do that. Even I'm just putting my imaginary manager hat on. That's what I would like to do. But at what risk? Because remember, if Arsenal get rid of all these, let's say, squad players, players who were senior players but are deadwood and need to be let go of for Arsenal to reach the next level, but you will suffer short term because, like you said, you will rely on youngsters, and what one thing youngsters are very inconsistent, and you might get sucked into a relegation battle. Would you be willing to go into a battle like that, knowing that you're going to have to get rid of these players, get rid of all these players, and suffer in the short term? Like, how much are you willing to take? Because I'm being serious. Just like you guys could be if you do that. If you sell, let's say, Mustafi, uh, Bellerin, some of the center backs, then get some money for maybe Maitland Niles or get rid of either Lacazette. All these players that you have to sell, Kolasinac, Ozil, all these guys. How, like, don't you think it's going to have an impact on the team and it put you in a position of peril where you could seriously be fighting a relegation battle? Because honestly, you lose 5 6 players like that, you will get into a relegation battle if you don't replace them. Even if you do, it takes some time. Like, it's January, it's not summer. You don't have preseason, you don't have any friendlies. You have to bet in immediately. And aren't you concerned in any way that a drastic change like that could have at the very least a drastic impact short term, and you guys can get into potential situation where Arsenal have never been in. And
What what that they're not going to be in a relegation battle with these current crop of players. There's no guarantee, but Arsenal need change. That's for sure. The players need changing. So, as a fan, I would rather see the players go because I've had it enough. I've had enough of Xhaka. I've had enough of Bellerin. I know they're not good enough. I've had enough of Ozil. I know he's not, what he used to be. I've had enough of a lot of these players. Kolasinac, uh, Mustafi, these guys need to go. Luis, these guys need to go because we know that they're not good enough. So we need to reinvest that money or take the wages that are going to be off the bill and utilize that on quality. Because let's face it, we've had it said before, we are a Europa League team on a Champions League wage bill. Our owners have said that. So our owners who don't really give a shit about football, they have said that. So they can realize that. That means they know that these players have to go. And that's the first thing that's going to happen this January before Arteta or anyone else in this hierarchy, in this managerial position loses their job. Because that's already been done. The clear out has happened from the top. A lot of people have lost their jobs. They've let go. Hasfami, Raul Sanlehi, they have been let go. So that's why the players need to change. And once we can see Arteta at least trying with the youth or getting some new players in, the wage that's going to be off the bill when these older players are also gone, all of this is going to lead to Arsenal having a better chance in the future. They might possibly be in a relegation battle, but there's no guarantee that they won't be in a relegation battle with the current crop of players.
Let me just let's be honest. Like Arsenal are 15th, but with the level of players we're talking about, okay, they might not anymore be top four quality, but the likes of Bellerin, Xhaka, Mustafi, Ozil, Kolasinac, they're not relegation battle players. You would expect them to have the professionalism to drag Arsenal over the line in terms of staying in the league. Maybe 12th, 13th, worst case scenario, 14th, maybe 13th, 14th, whatever the case may be. But with the youngsters, I just feel like there's a genuine chance of getting sucked into that battle because you don't know. Maybe they'll do very well, but there's a potential to not. Like last season, Chelsea, remember, the expectation was from Roman was to stay up. Anything above relegation is acceptable for Lampard. That was the expectation last season. We were fortunate that some of the younger players, Reece James, Mount, Tammy Abraham, came good. If they didn't come good, we would be. And let's say if Lampard took a stance where he's like, you know what, let's get out all the deadwood. Pedro, get out. Villian, get out. Giroud, get out. All these older players, all of you. I don't want to do anything with you. We might be in the championship this season. You know what I mean? Like that's the Premier League is so competitive. He has this. Oh man, I don't envy Arteta because he has he has a job on his hands. And man, he has such a tough job on his hands. Let's just predict. What do you think Arsenal are going to do in the next 3 games? Do you think how many points are Arsenal going to get?
Okay, I'll be very honest and I'll say 0. I don't expect us to get anything.
Oh man, that's amazing. That's amazing. Anyways, man, it was great talking to you. What do you think? All right, let's do a prediction for this season. Let's try to be perceptive of what's happened and just use our experience in terms of as a football fan. What do you think is going to happen? Where will Arsenal stand at the end of the season? And will Mikel Arteta still be manager?
All right. So as things currently stand, if we don't buy in January, even if we sell, I don't think we'll get relegated. Even if we sell or get rid of the deadwood, I don't think we'll get relegated. The worst we might finish is 15. That's the worst. That's what I think. And will Arteta be in his job? I hope and pray that he does, because if that is not the case, then the club will go even backwards. And there's no guaranteeing that the next manager can come in and do a better job. He will need his set of players and will be losing more money with him. So, it's better to try with Arteta than constantly change. I know for some teams it works, like with Chelsea, they have the money, They have the owner who's invested in the club, who does whatever it takes. We are not in that position. Our owners don't care if Arsenal wins or loses. They care about the money, and they will care when they start losing the money. So I don't think they'll get rid of Arteta because he's cheap.
They'll care if Arsenal are in a relegation battle. Trust me, because that affects brand value for sure. Anyways, guys, it was awesome talking to you, man, and I like your perspective because I read online and I see a lot of Arteta out, and that's trendy, because they're losing, and it's an easy thing to do. Take that perspective of, oh, we won the FA Cup with the same group of players. These group of players were fifth like a couple of seasons back, But I like the perspective that you're taking, that Arteta is the man for the job, and it's not necessarily his fault. He is to blame, but it's not just completely down to him. My concern, just as a neutral, is the stuff that Edu's coming out with. He's backed himself in glory. The kind of stuff that he's done, the contracts that he's given players, it's not exactly been covered in in glory. And what makes you think that they're going to get it right this time? Is it just that Arteta's there?
I don't know what's gonna get done with Edu or with Arteta, how much they're gonna get right or wrong. But what I can say is that right now the main issue, number one, being the owners. We've had that for the most part of our decline, and number two is the players, because these players have stayed. Wenger has left, so there's no Wenger to blame. Wenger's not gonna back you, take your side anymore. And Arteta's come in the middle. It was someone else, and it didn't work. So these players need going. They need to be let go. New players need to come in, and you have to start afresh. You have to start from a clean slate before you can do anything. Use the academy players. Some of our academy players are very, very good, and they're fresh and they care about the club. They have that hunger. We need more of our Haaland product to be in the team, because they will care for the club. They will play for the badge and not just for the pay. And that's the direction that Arsenal need to take, because they have made some timely and efficient investments in the youth structure and in some of the recent transfer signings as well. And I think that gives them a bit of time to build for the future. And if things go well in January, things can turn around. Football moves very fast, so I'm not going to be quick to say, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. But as we've seen with Arsenal, they're unpredictable. You can never write them off. All of a sudden, you might see them winning against Chelsea, and maybe that might be a turning point. You never know.
I could see a manager come in and once again we lead them to like a cup win. Honestly, I can, because they have the talent. Let's not forget, they have some good players. Like I said, Aubameyang can't just be. They can't just become championship level players overnight. That doesn't happen. I don't even care if they're in decline. They're better than 15th. Let's be completely frank about that. Anyways, man, it was awesome talking to you about Arsenal. I really wanted to get a different perspective on Arsenal, because the perspective I'm getting is Arteta out, and it's good to see someone backing Arteta, man. Let's do this again in a few weeks. Let's do after a 4 or 5 game. Let's see where Arsenal are at, and then we can do this again.
As we've seen, not every manager can, go that top level. Arteta has shown signs that he can be in that level of a Pep Guardiola, for instance. And Pep Guardiola himself isn't building teams from the ground up. He's needing money, he's needing to invest, he's needing his players before he can. Yeah, exactly. So Arteta needs that backing. Arteta needs, I'm not saying spend like Man City, but he needs the minimum backing where he gets the players that he wants. And the board, that's what gives you some hope, because the board are starting to spend their own money, that we might go in the January transfer window, buy maybe even 3 players. Who knows, whether we sell or not. But we're definitely going to be active in the January transfer market. We will look to, because otherwise it's a relegation scrap, and we don't want to be in a relegation scrap. And trust me, we're not that bad that we're going to get relegated. I think somewhere down the line, even if we keep these same set of players, things might change. But it's going to be a bumpy road ahead, and it's better we start working from January and use this transfer window wisely.
All right, man. You're quite optimistic. I like that. That's good. You're going to need that, I think, this season. And let's see what Arsenal do in January, man. They've missed out on Szoboszlai again. Question marks on Edu and the boys. What can these like? How many transfers are they potentially going to mess up? I know that this was a bit of a handicap because Szoboszlai is from RB Salzburg, so same owners essentially. So yeah, but we'll see what Arsenal do, man, and we'll definitely get back in 5 games. Let's say after 5 games and see where Arsenal are. All right, man. Thanks for catching. Thanks for tuning in, man. See you later, man.
Yeah.